So welcome guys to the last game of our StarCraft PH Replay Casting Session live here on twitch.tv/DaksPH. We've had a number of games. We had around 5 and this is going to be the 6th and last one because we do have to prepare for a few more things. Anyway though, another one sent in by the community, another community cast, and let's get into our play. Introducing our players first, top left here, Wyldmane on that red Protoss. On the other hand, here we have Mausami himself. Again, Mausami, thank you for the replays. This guy, a big fan, or at least a big supporter in terms of sending in those replays. So thank you to Mausami again for giving us this one. And yes, we are gonna see some proxy barracks here from Mausami. The description didn't lie. I want to see this. I want to see this work. And let's see some stinky cheese. Wyldmane caught unaware already. He hasn't set anything out. He hasn't set a probe yet to go to the base. He did send one just recently, but he didn't touch with the SCV. Assimilator now gonna be built up, and here comes the gateway. It's a TVP, so we won't see a wall on in from Wyldmane. On the other hand, Mausami can play it even cheekier if he builds it here by the corner of the main base. The probe now, just unaware of what's going on, not checking out what's there. Look at it, look how close. Look how close that is. But to no avail. Now we do see a Zealot now being warped on in. I think Wyldmane has realized something is amiss. Because for now, Mausami doesn't have a barracks anywhere in his main base. He's building up his wall instead. It really does go to show that Mausami is doing something a little cheeky. That's why we get the Zealot pretty early here from Wyldmane to try and disrupt anything that is going to be going on. Second pylon is built up as well as the Cybercore here for the side of the Protoss. The other hand, there you go, Wyldmane now trying to run on out with the Protoss Zealot just running on in. What Wyldmane wants to do right now is he wants to set that Zealot to go for the attack onto the main base, as we do have the Reaper now. Gonna go some damage. Oh, the probe almost getting the surround there. Very close, but no cigar. Mausami able to get some more kills right now, just taking care of those robotic creatures. 2 kills to the name of the Reaper, but he's really low. Has to get on out. Combat Drugs is gonna be the name of the game. Here comes the Zealot. In the meantime, gonna march on in to the main base of the Terran. Mausami gonna decide to retreat. Will Mausami be able to put up the wall in time? My money says no. Here comes the Zealot. Will the macro play from Mausami be enough? Wyldmane just gonna push on in, and it's gonna be very close here for both players. Epic surround though onto the Zealot. 1 SCV gonna fall. The Mule on the other hand just keeping watch, not really repairing on the SCV. So 2 SCVs there for the Zealot, and some economical damage is more or less worth it for Wyldmane. He even forced the Reapers to back on out. The real question though is, does Wyldmane know that the barracks is afoot? The barracks is floating around right now. Mausami gonna use the backs to actually scout out the Protoss base, and that is just very cheeky stuff here from the Blue Terran. He is just gonna fly them over the Stalker. The Stalker can easily go for some pokes, and now we do see a number faction coming up by the map. The Adept there, just looking to scout around with the Ghost. In the meantime, the barracks is flying on out. The Stalker gonna give chase and will decide to just disrupt the flow of the Protoss expansion here by propping down the barracks in the middle of it. In the meantime though, we see the second base, the Adept really low, gonna turn into the Shade itself, just gonna fall along the way. A Cyclone is available here for Mausami as well. Where the hell does this factory come from? Wow, he has a proxy factory, but it's on the side of his own. Okay, like, this is interesting. This is a very interesting placement for Mausami. I feel like if you want to be super cheeky about it, he should have built it here. Just keep on the pressure. But what happened there was Mausami was forced to play it very defensively instead. Now the barracks gonna go for the scout again. Poor barracks, we will be missed, but we will get a replacement sometime soon. A starport though being built, and Mausami knows he needs that barracks to keep his tech up. The Cyclones though in position to just let loose the rockets, let loose the juice, and do some damage. But the Immortals are ready, and they can do so much against armored targets. In the meantime though, Mausami is supply block as well as, so he needs to build up some supply depots along the way. The command center gonna be able to compensate for that at the start. The Cyclones getting rid of the rocks as well, and the point of this was just to disrupt the entrance point for Wyldmane. The moment he walks on in, he's gonna realize, oh, I have to go around instead. And this gives Mausami a lot more space to work with. Looking at the production right now here for Wyldmane, we will see an observer gonna be built up by the Robo facility, and it is actually a very smart decision here for Wyldmane. You can never go wrong with having an invisible scout ready to roam around, especially when Widow Mines are afoot. Look at that, Mausami just setting them up like real mines, just playing them very, very defensively. Those Widow Mines are gonna be waiting and ready to go for some big hits. On the other hand, Wyldmane has had enough of the antics of Mausami. He's gonna put up a Nexus here on the bottom left. Interesting enough, here comes the attack. Observer in position, the Wyldmane powerless to stop anything. We see observation mode now in effect, just getting the sight lines that they need. And for now, Mausami forced to stay inside. Wyldmane, on the other hand, tried to expand in the corner reaches that no one expected. Beautiful scan there to get rid of the Observer, and that's gonna be the takedown from the Cyclone Squad. So a small little reprieve here for both players, and it's like these guys, it's like the Protoss army are like Girl Scouts, as we do see a standard play from ages ago, a hallucination of a Phoenix. Now the Banshee is spotted, so Wyldmane knows something is gonna be up, something's gonna be afoot. We do have the cloak there cancelled out by the starport, so this Banshee already gonna be not too effective. He knows that his timing is gone due to the fact that Phoenix scouting out that Banshee coming on out. On the other hand, we do have a Robo facility here building up a Warp Prism instead. So we will see a cycle of units coming out from Wyldmane. They are focusing down the factory. It's going to be burning up in the atmosphere, in the skyline. There's the fire. Here come the flames. Can the SCV repair it in time? That is the real question. In the bottom left corner of our Dreamcatcher LE game though, we do still have the Protoss expanding. Second base here on the bottom left. Very, very cheeky stuff. And he has another observer coming on in. What can Mausami do? All he can do right now is stay in his base, stay and play very defensively. Rarely do you see the Protoss army in full control of the map before the 200 supply mark. But it is what it is right now. The Wyldmane gonna fall. There's the focus fire on to the Stalkers. Force field coming on out, but it's way too late there from Wyldmane. Wyldmane, I feel like, has the opportunity to go for a third expansion. The moment this thing is saturated, just put it up here as per usual and just pretend that they only have two bases. The Warp Prism now cycling on in some Adepts. The real question is, will these be suicidal Adepts or will they be the backbone of the army instead? Overseer gonna fall again. And now the Wyldmane in prime position to just pop. Wyldmane though, a little too afraid, doesn't want to go on in the shade now. Just gonna float on by to the back line. Here comes Cyclones already, and this one Adept just gonna sacrifice herself in vain. On the other hand, we do have another cycle of units here. Adepts by the Warp Gate. That's pretty interesting. So I guess Wyldmane didn't decide to scout around the map this time to look for any proxy play here from Mausami again. He is just gonna send his army all across Dreamcatcher LE right now, as a Disruptor is gonna march on in instead. But in the meantime, this is just the lull period in time that nothing is really happening. But I really love seeing all the proxy play. I love seeing something that is more aggressive. I love seeing proxy play because it really goes to show that you want to attack your opponent, you want to send him some units as much as possible. In the meantime though, Wyldmane finally deciding to go for the top right, which is the rich mineral field. Adepts just running on by the Banshee doing some damage, and Wyldmane struggling to do anything against the Sky unit. There's the first Adepts getting taken down. He can use the Shade, however, to just back on out, as we see +1 to both infantry weapons and armor here for Mausami. So it really goes to show that Mausami is going to invest heavily on those Marines. Combat Shield ready and willing to go as well. In the meantime, there's the attack from the side of the Protoss. Disruption field onto those disruptions as well. Interference matrix rather. So it's going to be a tough time here for the balls to actually do some damage along the way. Mausami though ready to float out another command center, looking for an expansion opportunity. In the meantime, Wyldmane right now still staying on 2 base, just wants to play aggressively. Instead, Adept gonna go into the middle line to try and get some focus down onto itself instead. There's the Nova, there's the takedown, big hits there by the balls. Wyldmane right now showing everyone how it's done. So for now, Mausami in a bad spot, gonna fall. Gonna lose units left, right, and center. Wyldmane in the meantime just losing these disruptors, just floating them into the middle, not really doing much after those big hits. He needs to migrate these units in a way that the disruptors are not gonna get blown to bits, but looks like it is gonna be the siege tank now getting the artillery done, and that's a big hefty loss there for Wyldmane. Mausami on the other hand, just staying on with the defensive play, just staying on by his primary base, and he has a firing range ready, willing, and available to go. For now, scans are coming on out, and Mausami is gonna be entrapped in one base. He is getting a steady flow of economy still though, but these orbital commands now completely useless as of the moment. The Marine's gonna go for the push, the SCV there to tank it up as well, but it's just not gonna be enough in this situation. The Overseer in the prime spot as well, to scout out these siege tanks along the way. Look at that, it's such a scary sight to see these siege tanks now perched up on top of the cliff, but it will be enough to just to allow Mausami to stay in this fight. For now, the Warp Prism cycling in some adepts again, and I'm going to be very interested to see how Wyldmane here is going to use these adepts. Is he going to go for some shade play up on top, get besides the siege tank, and just take them down one by one? Or will it be something a little different? We do have a starport right now, a second one coming on in, and the Golden Armada is ready, willing, and available to come on out as soon as possible. RoboBay is there as well, thanks to the requirement for the disruptors. So you can really see that Wyldmane is heavily invested in terms of technology. Look at the spending right now, tech-wise. Wyldmane at around 2.6, which is a little behind compared to Mausami, who did go for the fusion core instead. But still, it really goes to show both players right now playing high tier units as much as possible. It could transfer from the probe line of the primary to another base. But what I don't like right now is Wyldmane is staying on 2 base in essence. He does have this primary base, but doesn't really give any more resources. I feel like he should expand one more time before he keeps approaching onto Mausami. Mausami already behind, has to float on a few command centers in different distinct spots of the map. Gonna try to go for some medevac play as well with those Marines. In the meantime, though, Wyldmane not maximizing his his economy rather, with the probes not in the best spots. 22 here, while 9 are here. And I feel like that's the biggest mistake sometimes in mid-tier players. The moment they have the advantage, they forget to expand in a proper system. They forget to expand all because they're not really increasing their bases, they're just replenishing their base supply instead. Mausami though finally getting a reprieve and using it to actually push on to attack the Protoss army. But look at that, the Void Ray meeting the Liberator in pitch combat. We have a scan right now from Mausami as well to look for anything like Dark Templars or wherever the rest of the Proton army is. Doesn't spot this out because they're gonna come from the backside. The siege tanks in a bad spot. The Stalkers doing some damage, and here comes the focus fire. The artillery is the first to fall. The siege tanks valiantly trying to siege on in, but will get taken down one by one. Disruptors in the meantime in the back, doesn't have the Novas available, just gonna roll on out instead. Adepts just tanking this up. Zealot's gonna march on by as well, and here comes the attack on the third base of Wyldmane. And look at that, look at what has happened. The moment the Protoss army was forced to retreat from a base, Wyldmane right now does not have any income whatsoever. The only thing he has are these 4 very, very sad looking mineral patches, as both bases are under attack. No base defense, no counter attack, nothing here from Wyldmane, and this is such a bad spot now for the Protoss. On the other hand, looking at what Mausami is doing, he has been able to stabilize his economy, his reforms, his taxes there, just working out in favor for the Terran Dominion. Will be enough, however, to stop Wyldmane in his tracks. For now, Wyldmane really needs to play this safe. The moment he loses these units, it might be game over for the Protoss. The Stalkers now marching on by the Marines trying to congregate. Here come the Medivacs. Here comes the Siege Tank. Here comes the Banshee as well. And this is going to be the engagement that we've been waiting for. The Medivacs into the middle. Liberator is there as well to ready and siege on up. The Marines now just marching on by to try and retreat. And this Oracle's command gonna fall along the way. The Stalkers just putting some pressure here. We do see some Stalkers now running on by, taking damage from that Siege Tank. Disruptors now caught in the middle, and one Disruptor falling. Wyldmane needs to protect these circle units as much as possible because this is literally all he's got. For now though, the Protoss really doesn't know what to do. He wants to expand, but he doesn't have the minerals behind this. It's gonna take so long to get that second expansion up and running. Instead, he's just gonna decide to attack as much as possible. Will it be enough? Because he's even building a Disruptor again. He has these queued up. He could have just built a Nexus Point instead. Here comes the drop right now, and I feel like Mausami has finally hit the nail in the coffin. Good recall though from the side of Wyldmane to force a retreat here from the Marines. Mausami gonna leave a few behind, try and do some damage, but it's gonna be all in vain from these rifle wielders. On the other hand, Wyldmane now gonna march on by again. We have a Tempest, interesting enough. That's a rare unit to see on its own. Tempest on its own, Void Ray on its own. I feel like Wyldmane just losing his identity, losing what composition he wants the moment he tech switch from mech play to air play. But in the meantime, Wyldmane right now just trying to protect this one probe who's doing some long distance mining, and we get the engagement that we've been looking for. Liberators trying to set on up. One does fall. The Protoss army now backing on out, trying to make some space, trying to get these Novas to hit properly. They do get some big hits onto the Marines, however, but there is still gonna be a book behind all of this. The Marines just running around, trying to bait out a few more Novas along the way, but Wyldmane already using both to fruition. The Tempest getting a catch onto one of the retreating Marines as well, and Mausami now deciding to send everything in. They're trying to go for the attack with some Vikings in the mix. The SCV is just gonna run on by as well. The good thing for Wyldmane though, he does know what kind of army composition his opponent has due to the fact he has an observer in position. On the other hand, Wyldmane just waiting, Wyldmane just skulking around, the Wyldmane congregating his units to go for one last push, one last attack. Supply depot gonna be built here by Mausami for some reason. I feel like he knows that Wyldmane is in a bad spot economically. He knows that Wyldmane is in a spot of trouble in terms of minerals, in terms of gas. And this time, he's just gonna try to choke out his opponent as much as possible. But the cheeky SCV gonna fall, cancel out onto command center as well. Mausami trying to retreat with that SCV, but he's gonna fall in the field of action. Speaking of action done, here comes the engagement. Orbital command is there, but Wyldmane deciding not to attack in anytime soon. For now, Mausami just waiting still on the outside. On the other hand, Wyldmane again with an oversaturated base. He really needs to expand more so than this. He needs to have at least 2 more bases up and running. Supply depot though, being burnt up, gonna get taken down by the Protoss army, and this will give the command center an opportunity to build up at the rich mineral field. But an depth is there, and what Wyldmane wants to do right now is take down the SCV that is building this thing instead. There you go. Gets in the field of view of the adept. There's the shot. 3 shots. It's all he needs to get that takedown. A good reinforcement rate right now, but look at this. Here comes the drop, and here comes the recall, but so many probes dying right now. 5 probes available only here for Wyldmane. He needs to build these up, but the Disruptors are the only ones that come on by. The Immortal, but under a lot of pressure, and this looks like it might be game, because these Disruptors can't do anything in this situation. The probe line completely decimated. They are an endangered species. The Marauder just doing some damage. Here comes the Nova again. It just pops along the way, doesn't even hit the armored being. A Tempest now gonna fly on in, and this looks really bad here for Wyldmane. 6 workers is just way too few to try and keep your economy up. Mausami though, just still going around the map, spots out the Oracle. I feel like this is the time to strike. Here they come. Mausami congregating his units, unsieging his tanks, and this might be the final countdown, the final battle between the Protoss and the Terran. Wyldmane deciding to just go for it, go YOLO, 1 life remaining, 1 army composition to go for the attack, and these Disruptors are gonna be the crux of it. Can Wyldmane pull off the impossible? But looks like it's gonna be a bad spot right now because the disruptor hits aren't big enough. He has to wait these out. In the meantime, Mausami gonna back on out. And I feel like this is gonna be good for Wyldmane because the disruptors... Oh no, never mind! The disruptors out in front gonna get picked off. One of them dying immediately. I was gonna say that all Wyldmane needs to do now is wait for the Nova to charge on up before attacking again. But instead, he's gonna decide to run one in, and these balls are very, very expensive units. 48 supply, make that 51. Let's talk about the army instead. 40 army to 122, plus 1 versus plus 2. This thing looks absolutely terrible here for Wyldmane. And the biggest problem right now is he doesn't even have any ground attack upgrades. All he has is armor and shields. Who gets shields at this point in time? The Disruptor trying to back on out. The Nova connecting onto the SCB instead. The SCBs do die, but the army is still ready, willing, and able. There you go. GG comes on out. And that's gonna be the game. Mausami taking that one. An unfortunate series of events there from Wyldmane. Just really throwing his disruptors way too much, spending too much in terms of the orb builders, and not even defending his economy when the Terran army came knocking. On the other hand, Mausami playing a beautiful defensive game, staying up on top, very, very close in that situation. Like, the moment he was forced to stay on one base, that was such a make or break moment for Mausami, and he made it work. So, that's gonna be our last game for the session. Congratulations there to Mausami.